We are waiting for our chief guest to come in. He'll be in here in 1 minute. So we'll start the session as soon as he arrives.
Hi.
Hi, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Ipshita, you here?
Ipshita.
A very good morning to our distinguished guests, members of faculty, and students. My co-compare Simran and I, Ipshita, would like to virtually welcome each and every one of you to IMI New Delhi's annual management conclave, Conventors 2020. We have the pleasure of taking you through the inaugural session this morning. Before we move on, I would like to request the President of the Student Council, Mr. Pranav Mangal, to kindly brief us about Conventors 2020. Mangal?
Thank you, Ipshita. A very good morning to our honorable guests, members of faculty, and my dear friends. Welcome to Conventus 2020, the annual management conclave of International Management Institute, New Delhi. The dynamic and fast-changing environment we currently live in is best described by the acronym VUCA. Its four elements, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, perfectly characterize the chaos and confusion the world entails. First used in 1987, VUCA has now gained massive popularity in the business world. This is hugely due to the fact that it is one of the best tools that industries can utilize to better prepare for crisis, plan forward, and mitigate risks. In light of this, Conventus 2020 is themed around survival and growth in the VUCA world. The next 3 days shall witness 10 summits, each with their own sub-theme, revolving around the vision of the main theme. To provide us with a comprehensive understanding of what the word VUCA implies, I would like to take this time to acknowledge the immense contribution of each one of our distinguished panelists, without whom Conventus 2020 would not be possible. It is their words of wisdom that make each of the summits the enlightening sessions that they are. The discussions that will take place over these 3 days will surely leave a lasting impact on all of us. Following the inaugural ceremony today, we will have the finance, marketing, and the economic summits. Tomorrow, we will start the discussions with the HR summit, followed by operations, strategy, and the hospitality summit. The final day, which is on the 20th of September, will witness the CSR summit, the analytics summit, and the entrepreneurship summit, which will be followed by the valedictory. Conventus is a legacy. This year, despite all the roadblocks, we at IMI are not only determined to continue this legacy forward, but to set a benchmark even higher. We hope, like every year, the summits will continue to be of excellent quality and will be an enlightening experience for all of us. Last but not the least, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to all our dignitaries. I would also like to thank the faculty of IMI for guiding us now and always, the students who have worked hard to make this event possible. On this note, I, Pranav Mangal, President of the Student Council, welcome you all to Conventus 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav. We live in an unpredictable and constantly altering world. By the very definition of VUCA, we can never be completely prepared for everything. As corporate leaders, we need to understand that meticulous planning will only get us so far. Rational thinking and careful planning are crucial for decision making, but in some situations, we will not have the luxury of time. Learning to adapt to change with agility and working sustainably will give us an edge at the time of crisis. Corporate leaders of today need to show resilience to these factors and take businesses in a positive direction. Survival and growth in a world where volatility and uncertainty prevail will require tremendous effort. Failure in itself is not the problem, but failure to learn and adapt can be catastrophic. In order to not only survive but grow in this ambiguous environment, it is of utmost importance to develop the skill of introspection. Businesses must be able to understand and adapt to each situation with agility and in the most sustainable way. Survival in a VUCA world is the need of the hour. and growth is a true way forward. Conventus 20 will provide a platform to delve into the knowledge and experiences of industry experts and formulate plans on how we can make the most of the opportunities that lie ahead in these unprecedented times. It will be an intriguing and enlightening experience for students of business management, helping them derive wisdom and insights to gear up for their challenging corporate careers ahead. To give you all some visual insights, we'd like to present to you a video outlining Conventus 2020.
Business often takes inspiration from the art of war strategies. Gone are the days when a single textbook solution could work all molds. Challenges have become multifaceted. As experienced by the US Army during the Cold War, VUCA, an acronym describing how less they knew or could think regarding situations. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown the world into disarray. Everything has become increasingly unstable. The concept of clarity is muddled. Predicting the future is nearly impossible. Interconnectivity is more chaotic than ever. So, how do you plan on coping with the new normal?
Thank you. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Sudhir Seti. Mr. Sudhir Seti is the founder and chairman of the Shirate Ventures India Advisors, formerly IDG Ventures India. Since 1998, Mr. Seti and his team have advised on investments into over 100 firms across deep tech, digital consumers, enterprise software, fintech, and healthcare sectors. In 2001, Mr. Seti was recognized by Red Herring as one of the leading venture capitalists in the country. He has been named among the top 10 IT professionals by DataQuest and by Bloomberg UTV as Visionary Venture Capitalist in 2011. Mr. Seti has been featured in Shubroto Bagchi's book, Zen Garden Conversations with Pathmakers in 2014. In addition to leading Shirate Ventures India Advisors, Mr. Seti has served on the EMPEA Venture Capital Council, which is the Council for the Emerging Markets Private Equity Association. He has served as an advisor on the Technology Innovation and Productivity Council of the GMR Group. He also served on the Executive Committee of Indian Venture Capital Association IVCA, Investment Committee of UTI Ventures, on the board of Ascent Capital, and on the board of advisors at NS Raghavan Center of Entrepreneurship, IIM Bangalore. With over 30 years of experience, Mr. Seti has served at various leadership positions at HCL, Wipro, and Cyient, as well as country head of Walden International India. Mr. Seti holds a BTech in engineering and an MBA degree from FMS Delhi. Sir, it is indeed a privilege to have you with us here today.
Thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce our Director General, Dr. Himadidas. Dr. Himadidas took on the role of Director General of IIM New Delhi in October 2018. on his return to IMI after being away for almost 6 years. During the time he was away, Management Gurgaon, and then as of MDI Gurgaon. In his first stint at IMI New Delhi, he spent 11 years as a professor of finance and information systems, in addition to taking on a variety of leadership roles, out of which 5 years he was the Dean of Academics. Prior to taking these academic roles, he has about 13 years of corporate experience, mainly in the IT products and services industry in the US and in India for software multinationals involved with products for engineering and financial applications. He has been a visiting professor at the University of Luxembourg, the University of Tampere in Finland, and the Grenoble Graduate School of Business in France. He has a BTech and an MBA from IIT Delhi and an MS and PhD from the University of Virginia, USA. We welcome you, sir.
We further take pride in introducing Professor Siddharth Verma, the Dean of Academics of IMI New Delhi. Professor Verma specializes in operations management and teaches the subjects of operations management and project management to postgraduate students at IMI New Delhi. He also conducts and participates in various management development programs at IMI New Delhi. He has a vast experience spanning 32 years. We are happy to have him with us today. We welcome you, sir.
I now request our Director General, Dr. Himadidas, to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, Simran. Mr. Seti, my colleagues and dear students, a very warm welcome to Conventors 2020. At the outset, I must compliment our students for not having batted an eyelid in making this work this year also, in spite of everything that is happening around us. And they haven't even come to campus this entire academic year. And the first year students are not even, have not even met their seniors face to face. I'm sure they've met them a lot on Zoom and a bunch of other online media platforms, but never even met them face to face. The fact that this has been pulled off by the students is, an awesome achievement in itself. So at the outset, I would like to compliment and congratulate the students for not letting any of this stuff going around in the world dampen their spirits. And essentially, they have proven that where there's a will, there's a way. So they've made it happen. And that's part of IMI culture. Across IMI, whether it's faculty, staff, or students, we don't let anything put us down. We believe in being agile and flexible and adaptable. And this culture permeates, all the way, not just faculty and staff, but students as well. And we are very, very proud of that. I'm going to give you a very brief history of Conventors, more for the benefit of the first year students who may not know that and who are in the audience. This is the 9th edition of Conventors. It started in 2012 and it was a student initiative. So the people who drove it was the graduating class of 2013. So before 2012, we used to have these disaggregated, disparate half-day summits. There would be a marketing summit in 1 month, and another month there'll be a finance summit. And there weren't 10 of them, of course, but there was marketing, finance, and ops were always there, and HR was there. So I think there used to be about 4 half-day summits at different times of the year. So then I had encouraged there was no student council then. So I encouraged a group of students who used to be in my class, second year students, that you want to create a big bang, and why do you want to have these disparate things which are like drops in the ocean and nobody notices them? Why don't you create the ocean itself? So from there on, it was completely their initiative. They had institutional support. So Conventors was born, I believe, in October 2012. Even then, it was a 3-day event. There were not 10 summits. There were probably 6 or 7, if I remember correctly. And then a student council was formed, because actually the formation of the student council was driven by the need to do Conventors. So because Conventors was going to be in this organizational behemoth in terms of planning it and executing it, a student council was formed where club people became representatives of the student council. And then that was the genesis of the student council, which was driven by the need to do Conventors as opposed to the other way around. So this little bit of history that is good to know whenever a legacy continues and keeps growing from year to year. I am extremely happy that Mr. Sudhir Seti has agreed to come and do this inaugural. I was chatting with him in the breakout room, and he used one word which he says is very important for people to be comfortable with, especially people who work in venture capital. And that one word is uncertainty. And in your theme today, that is one of the 4 words in VUCA. And uncertainty used to be a theoretical concept for many, but for us, because of COVID, uncertainty is in our face. It is reality. You can't make any kind of projections now. You don't know when this thing is going to blow over. You don't know when, even at a very, ground level, something of immediate interest to you. You don't even know when you're coming back to campus. Neither do I. None of us know. But that is, just one aspect in our world. But there is uncertainty all throughout, and the ability to be comfortable in uncertainty, the ability to embrace uncertainty, the ability to think through uncertainty, and have multiple plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. The alphabets of the English language might run out given the kind of uncertainty we are dealing with. But that ability to think things through and not getting frazzled when A, B, C, D, and E plans fall flat on their face. That to me, in my mind, is the biggest thing that you people, my students, should learn from what they're facing now. And think of this as this is nothing. You should think of it that way. You can deal with bigger things. So I'm very happy that Mr. Seti also talked about uncertainty. And not only are we living it and breathing it now, but it happens to be part of your theme of VUCA. And I'm sure he'll talk a lot more about that. He's done some phenomenal things. I was having a chat with him, and I always like to do a little bit of homework on all our guests. So he was one of the initial investors in Flipkart, which he has exited in 3 different tranches, the last exit being when Walmart bought majority shares. That's the one that everybody knows about. I mean, he's got, if you go to the Chirate Ventures website, you will see the portfolio of investments they've had, including the portfolio of exits. So he's in early stage tech, which is a very exciting place to be in. It's a very favorite space for me also. I've been following that space for the last, 8 years now. And I've been talking to students off and on, especially people in the entrepreneurship cell, that we want you to think of doing a startup while you're still on campus, and then taking it forward and getting it funded before you graduate, at least seed funding, very, very early stage funding. And I have used the word that why be a corporate slave when you can create value and grow something, and then, of course, as a corollary, also create wealth for yourself. And Mr. Seti said something similar. He likes to go to business school students and young people to encourage them to think beyond what I call the Ghisapita corporate route, but think big and think entrepreneurial, think startup. And the situation is very different today than it was even 10 years ago. There is a lot of early stage money for people who are solving, and I'm quoting something that Mr. Seti said in the breakout room, who are solving problems with scale. So, and that's the key. You have to first find a problem that needs to be solved, and the problem should be big enough that it can be solved with scale. That's a business idea, not a product, not a service. The business idea starts with a problem. You first identify the problem, then you size the problem. If the problem is big enough, you figure out a tech way to solve that problem with scale. And then you'll have people like Mr. Sudhir Seti and his likes, willing to back you up. I'm assuming that's right, Mr. Seti.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I will not come now in between you and our chief guest. So again, a very, very warm welcome to everybody to Conventors 2020. And thank you, Mr. Seti, for kindly agreeing to be here on this occasion. Welcome again and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I now request our chief guest, Mr. Sudhir Seti, to kindly address the virtual gathering, following which the audience may interact with him through their questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Ishita, and thank you, Dean and IMI students, and my old buddy, or not old, long-standing buddy, Nalan Jain. We were together in college, and I must say he was more studious than I am, which is why he's teaching and I'm not. But it's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me here. The topic is, I think the topic which you've chosen of VUCA is relevant even pre-COVID times. But let me take a minute and fundamentally sort of describe to you what first COVID meant. I think that's important from a business point of view. If you look at, this is my fourth downturn in my sort of last 20 years I've been doing venture, and all the earlier downturns were single dimensional. They were financial downturns. They affected business in some way or the other. What this does is it affects travel, it affects business, it's affected health, it's affected geopolitical relationships. Anything you can think of, COVID has impacted. So it's multi-dimensional. It's, if some of you are followers of Star Trek, it's Dr. Spock playing chess on 4 dimensions or more. And that is what the world is all about. And this world, to my mind, is not going to change. In fact, it's going to get more volatile. It's going to get more uncertain. There will be more ambiguity. There will be phenomenal change at a faster pace. So effectively, it's revolutionary in nature, and entrepreneurs, businesses, it doesn't matter, large or small, will have to thrive in such an environment. I do not see, I think there's been many discussions on what's going to happen. Is it going to be a V-shaped recovery? Is it going to be a U-shaped recovery, or any other shape which I can think of? I think the way we are looking at it is that the world has changed, consumer behaviors have changed, businesses have changed, and all this demands new products, new services, new revenue models, and new business models. And this is going to stay with us forever. That's the way, that's one basic point I thought I'll mention to you. Now, when we talk to ourselves first, we are a business at the end of the day. We started this like an entrepreneur, and today we face the same challenges. So, a VC is no different from any other entrepreneur. But let me come back to you and take a minute on what is an entrepreneur. To me, an entrepreneur is a highly motivated individual who has identified something which doesn't work in society, in business, and now wants to go and fix it. And he or she wants to go and fix it, and at scale. And that problem which he or she wants to fix has not been fixed before. That's a very fundamental nature of an entrepreneur. Or it may have been fixed in a certain way which is inefficient, and then the entrepreneur wants to fix it in a different way. So what are these business challenges? Supply chain, distribution chains, health. We have 1 billion people in India, and health, good health, is not accessible to more than 50 million people. That's a massive change which is required. No amount of hospitals and clinics and doctors reaching the hinterland of the country will be in the near future able to give good health to those our 1 billion people. We have 75 to 100 million SMEs in the country. They need capital to grow. They do not have technology. And how do they thrive? So that's a challenge which needs to be solved. There is capital requirement by any business. India has capital, but it doesn't reach the right people. And that's, many of you may not know, but just family wealth in the country is greater than $2 trillion. So it's not that India does not have wealth. There is a mismatch. There's a set of businesses or institutions or individuals and families who have wealth, and there's a set of people who need to consume wealth for prosperity. There's a mismatch. It doesn't reach the right people at the right time at the right price. So effectively, that list can go on. One last point I want to give is very important. Agri. A large part of the population depends on agriculture. And the average holding is 2.5 acres. Crop productivity is one of the lowest in the world. A typical farmer earns nothing more than 30, 40, 50,000 net per acre per year if he's doing well. And to that extent, farming is a journey which I call, I would say, somewhat breaking news type, but permit me to do that, is a journey in perpetual poverty. How do you get a farmer to become economically comfortable and prosper? It cannot be by any other reason but solving that problem, whether that is crop productivity, getting credit to the farmer. And today, after 70 years of independence, that has not been solved before. So these are the kind of challenges which today entrepreneurs are solving. The entrepreneur today is, for us, we've seen, is getting younger. And that's where the opportunities for you lies. The youngest entrepreneur which you're about to fund, didn't happen, was 19 years old. Today, our youngest entrepreneur which we have funded is 24 years old, and he's building a global company. So why is it that younger generation are leading potentially large businesses as entrepreneurs? Because the younger generation has no legacy. There's no cobwebs about how things should be done. And that's very, very important. Entrepreneurship is about going into the market and doing something which nobody else has done. Does the entrepreneur know that success will follow? No. Does the entrepreneur know that this product is right? He or she thinks it's right. Is there uncertainty? The answer is yes. Does the entrepreneur know there will be a lot of challenges? The answer is yes. And is the entrepreneur a risk taker? And the answer is a very big risk. So entrepreneurs fundamentally are risk takers. Entrepreneurs fundamentally are youngsters who have the ability to vision some change in a massive and scaled manner, which is significant and makes a difference to that person, to that ecosystem, to the country. I must give you an example of how this impact is there. And I'll give you an example at the aggregate level. Today, we have 55 companies at an active level. We've funded over 100, but we have 55 active. And they are a proxy for some amount of scale and success is revenue, and a proxy is how they've been valued. So the revenue of all our companies is approximately $1 billion. And their market cap, private market cap, is $7 billion. So the question is, what's the impact of these companies at a very macro level? The impact of these companies which entrepreneurs have created, and it's very important to note, is 0.3% of India's GDP. Just one set of 55 entrepreneurs. And this example I'm giving to demonstrate to you that individually, you as entrepreneurs can create enormous value, which makes a difference to the Indian economy. Now let me come back to giving examples of what do you mean by volatility, uncertainty, VUCA. So let me go back to the revenue of all our 55 companies. In the month of March, the annualized revenue of all our 55 companies was approximately $1 billion. What happened in April? The revenue of all our companies fell to $350 million. And obviously, this is at an aggregate level. Some of our companies fell to zero. Okay. So, massive change on the negative side. And what happened during that time? I'll come to the details, but what happened? We all got together and said, oops, what do we do? And we did something together with the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs massively did changes which were unheard of. At least I have not seen in the last 3 downturns. And in the month of May, the revenue went to 650 million. So 1 billion, 350, 650. And in the month of June, it went back to 770. And today, we are almost back to $1 billion. So, when you talk about change and uncertainty and ambiguity, this is one example, and I can take so many examples of uncertainty and ambiguity which we have just seen in the recent past. And not at a small scale, it's a massive scale. So how did entrepreneurs address that massive ambiguity, uncertainty, the challenge? What did entrepreneurs do? What did investors do? So let me take it in 4 steps. The first thing is we all huddled together and literally said, what do we do? Because there is no antidote here. Okay. There is no classes I have attended which have taught me to address this change. So fundamentally, we all got together and started thinking. Somebody gave an idea A, somebody in B. But literally, the first thing which we did, which was across all companies, was protect the core business. We said, look, we must survive. And how to survive? We need cash, because venture funded companies burn cash in the beginning. Okay. To survive, we have to burn cash, burn less cash or no cash at all, cut costs, go back into our businesses and live for another day. Every single company did that. Some of our companies have treasuries of $100 to $300 million. They also did that. Said, look, this is too serious. Let's use this as an opportunity to see whether we have business flab or not. It's like weight loss. You go to a gym and do weight loss. So we cut costs, and we cut costs enormously. Every single piece. This was done in 30 to 45 days. Okay. There was pain. As a firm, what we did is we said, okay, there's pain. Some people may lose employment. So we set up a small fund for gig workers to address that. We said, we understand that, and about 3,500 people, we sort of helped them economically over the last 5 months because the pain was very real. So we did both. We said, look, we must address the pain of the business, and in some way we address the pain of the business also. At the end of the day, the basic norm of a company to survive is it must have cash to survive. All the other stuff doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you have cash, you will survive. And you will have cash to survive, but to also grow. So effectively, we did what is called stress test amongst all our portfolio. And the stress test was basically looking at who has how much of cash for how many months. We identified companies which could not. Companies who had cash more than 12 months, survival, and then stage two, which I'll come to. Companies which had cash for 6 months and 3 months, we started trickle feeding them so that they can survive, but we also merged them with bigger companies. Because at the end of the day, it's not possible for every company to survive. So the nature of the entrepreneur was uncertainty to be addressed with agility, with speed, with confidence, and together with their teams. I must say that there is not a single entrepreneur in our portfolio who came not with flying colors. Everybody came out with flying colors. It's amazing how youngsters came out with flying colors. So, step one, build the business, build the fundamental of cash, cost to be cut, anything which is not making money, cut it. Future growth, where money was going in, and if the ROI was too long, cut it, make sure you survive. That's step one. Step two, once this was done for a couple of months, 3 months to my mind, I think we did this for about 3 months. We started to immediately after the first 30 days look at green shoots for where we could grow. So let's broadly look at companies who have money and cutting costs and having lots more cash. Second team who have little money but can't invest in growth. We said, okay, let the little money companies stay put. Let's go to companies who have cash and see whether there are green shoots of growth. And in all our companies, we started identifying green shoots of growth. It's very important to look at businesses always with the glass being half full, not being empty. The worst thing which can happen as an entrepreneur is you get despondent. So we started looking at new green shoots. And we saw companies, some of them growing better than pre-COVID days. We started looking at, so what was the nature of the COVID times? The nature of COVID is basically physical side of business shut down, right? So anything where people had to walk in and buy could not be done. So many of our companies became very agile. Sorry, there's a plane flying by. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So fundamentally, all the businesses, they looked at, let's now grow. We've got the cash, we've got the cost, we're stable, our revenues are sort of slowly coming back. We've got a core team. Now, let's see if we can grow. And that happened within the first 3 months. Where growth was taking place across all our companies was by looking at consumers' online business. Lenskart started selling more online. First Try started selling more online. And we said, okay, that's interesting because people's consumer behaviors are changing. So the stores were shut, but online business started growing and we started investing in online business. We started changing theme. We started cracking the whole issue of how do we get our online deliveries better during COVID times. And the online business grew for everybody. The second business which we started looking at seriously was the digital business. Consumer behavior had changed in one day, 22nd of March. 21st of March, First Try had 400 stores open. 22nd of March, they had 0 stores open. That was the extent of the change. So change does not come over a period of time. Today, the world is change comes like this. So how do you deal with it? Change is not predictable. Uncertainty is not predictable. And that is the nature of the world today. So effectively, the digital business was growing. Consumers were sitting at home. They still needed food. They still needed to be healthy. They still needed medical care. So companies within 30 days started changing. Incidentally, CureFit is one of our companies. And they're the largest company in digital in fitness today. All 260 gyms shut down. But they have a technology platform and they preponed the digital product by 6 months and launched it during COVID times. Today, digital fitness at home is a very large business. Incidentally, that happened to everybody, whether it is in fitness or healthcare, doctors coming online, doing video calls, that processes were set. If you look at the other area which companies looked at was new products and new contiguous businesses. Because it was COVID times, Bizongo launched a full range of COVID related products and the business started growing again. Axio, one of our companies, launched a full range of COVID products, started growing. New products were devised for consumers to consume. So I do understand consumers were at home, they had the wallet, but we had to deliver services and products at home. So all companies started changing in that direction. So net, how was that uncertainty addressed by entrepreneurs? By preponing new products, by devising new products, by devising new companies' strategy in terms of execution rapidly on the ground and moving very fast. And the business change was digital and online. Now, incidentally, digital and online has one characteristic. It has no borders. So today, half our companies have a global footprint in about 40 companies already. And those companies started saying, let me think more going outside the country. Whenever a product goes outside the country from India, it actually has higher margins, which means if the unit economics are done properly, the company could get more profitable and become bigger scale. Some of our entrepreneurs started thinking, let's do bigger scale. Now this is very interesting. There's this shutdown happening on one side. The conventional revenues have gone down, and there is a set of entrepreneurs now who are thinking, let's become bigger. Very interesting. Lenskart post-COVID started selling in the US. Today, Lenskart eyewear is available in the US. First Cry improved its business in Middle East. Healthify Me started going outside the country much more. A small company called Emotics, which is a consumer companion robot for children between 5 to 8 to 10 years old, called Miko 2, some of you may have heard it, Miko, they improved their business outside the country. Play Shipu, which is in the AR/VR gaming space, improved the business outside the country. Play Simple, which is in the gaming space, started growing faster. So in the health business, in the supply chain business, in the distribution chain business, fast forward to today, we have 1/3 of our companies growing faster. 60% of them are bigger than pre-COVID revenues, and half of them are outside the country in products and services. So addressing that change head on is absolutely crucial to addressing and to tackling uncertainty, tackling the ambiguity is not ambiguity. Uncertainty is not uncertainty. Change is not change. All these are opportunities for growth, but you have to look at it from a glass half full, not from a glass half empty. Was there pain and distress? Yes. Did we have to cut corners in terms of cost cutting? Yes. But that's like, if you're not healthy, you need to take medicine at the end of the day. Let me come back to a common theme across the nature of this change being addressed. Who did this? It's the entrepreneur. And what's the DNA of the entrepreneur? The DNA of the entrepreneur, never say die, address it front end with speed, agility, with high degree of comfort, with uncertainty, with very high degree of comfort with change. Please understand, salaries were cut, okay, which means take homes have gone down because value creation takes time, and if you're cutting employee salaries, we as entrepreneurs have to cut our salaries, right? So there was nothing which was left unturned. in terms of moving towards growth overall. I want to come back to, what kind of companies entrepreneurs are making today, and at least from our experience, be, so today, as I mentioned, solving a real problem at scale is crucial. But I want to give you one sort of parting thought before we get into Q&A, the role of technology in businesses. Typically what happens is, if you take conventional supply chain, conventional, warehousing, conventional distribution chains, conventional getting medicine to, or getting healthcare to a billion people, the conventional method is typically capital heavy and doesn't use technology much. What we found always is, in the last 10 years, 15 years of our investing in technology, is technology helps you to reach the solution to the consumer and to the business faster and cheaper. The core of any business which is growing, whether it is a large corporation or it's a smaller company as an entrepreneur, is to use technology more and more. And that is very, very crucial. We just invested in a company. It's run by a young entrepreneur, Dhruv, and it's a company called Aether. He has made the world's first bionic limb for upper limbs. It's a bionic limb which gets activated by brain signals coming to your stub if you lost your upper arm. The hand movement there is exactly the same as the hand movement of a human being. It can lift 35 kilograms on one end of the spectrum, or the hand can lift a soft egg and give it to you. Effectively, that is an innovation which has come in the space of technology to solve a real problem. That's the kind of investments which are coming up. What was the problem being solved? Tens of millions of people in the world do not have an upper limb. Second, there's a company who identified infections in hospitals are broadly one of the key reasons is the use of catheters. And catheters, the consumption of catheters in India is about 3 crores a year. And one of the ways to stop the infection is to have an antibacterial catheter. So this company comes out after research with an antibacterial catheter called We Innovate, which is based on silver nanoparticles. Is there a company in the world which does this? One. Can this company become a global company? Yes. Can India help you to scale and become a global company? The answer is yes. Third company, a company called KB Colors. Now, all of you are wearing shirts and tops, and look at the colors. Do you know if they are chemical colors which are being used in your clothes? Anybody knows if they are chemical or otherwise? I presume no. Chemical colors form a bulk of the colors being used in any textile or paints or products. Fundamentally, they're harmful. By the way, beauty products. White is the color which is used in beauty products, which is based on titanium. A large part comes from China. It is cancer. It is carcinogenic in nature. So this company set out to say, I will change this now. And it is extracting color out of bacteria and microbes by applying stress onto them. They produced 10 liters as a prototype of color, and now they're testing and seeing whether they can scale. So I'm giving you extreme examples of how young entrepreneurs are thinking of changing the world, how they are looking at producing companies using technologies, whether it is supplying a FMCG products. I mean, I'll give you another example which is closer to home. FMCG products, when they go to a Kirana store, the loss of margin is anywhere between, on the lower side, 5-6%, on the higher side, 20%. And the inefficiencies are very high. So we have a company called Peelworks, which has a marketplace, enables Kirana stores to buy without overstocking, and that's efficiency using technology in a traditional supply chain, distribution chain business. There's a company called Cropin, which has 7.5 million acres, out of which 5 million are in India, and they're solving the problem of crop productivity using satellite imagery. These are young entrepreneurs who see a problem, apply technology, and solve that problem at scale at a reasonably inexpensive cost in India and globally. So, addressing the issue of volatility, uncertainty, change, and ambiguity is by tackling it in the upfront in the ways which many entrepreneurs have already done, but using technology, using scale, being agile, extremely innovative. And one thing which also runs common amongst entrepreneurs is the ability to communicate very effectively their idea and raise capital. You know, the best entrepreneurs will have a great product, but ability to raise capital is a different skill altogether. And that's a combination of communication and trust and governance. So it's fundamentally, you know, an entrepreneur is a superhuman being, by the way. Okay. At the end of the day, a young entrepreneur is going to build a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, and that is not a mean task. And today's entrepreneurs are building that in massive uncertainty. This is not going to change. Exciting world. I hope many of you will be part of this world as you graduate from your respective classes. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your insightful words, and I'm sure it will leave a lasting impression on all our minds. We will be moving on to our question answer session. So if you're here, Anirudh, you can please go forward with your question.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hi, Arul.
So my question is more generic, not related to VUCA as such. But in the world of funded startups, how important is it for the startup and the founders to remain independent and operate their company on their own, as opposed to maybe pressuring them into striving for rapid growth?
Very good question. So first and foremost, there are many kinds of businesses. It depends on the founder. If the founder wants to build a boutique business which is growing at 10% per annum, that makes you extremely happy and that's what you want to do, so be it. Do that. If you think you want to grow, then do that. It's the choice which the founder has to make. It is not necessary that every company in the world has to be a big company. In fact, the world is about smaller companies. 90% of the companies will remain boutique businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that. So no pressure. You cannot be under pressure and say somebody told you and do this. Do what you think is right. Do what you think you enjoy doing. And I mentioned that. Have fun. Okay, doing what you're doing. Sustain it for a longer period of time. And if it's a smaller business, so be it. Be proud of it.
Thank you for answering that question, sir. Now I would request Mokshit Sood, if you are here, to ask your question.
Good morning, sir. So companies which could go digital largely survived the impact of VUCA, or basically COVID-19 impact. But what is the road ahead for certain sectors like manufacturing and hospitality, which could even go online or digital, basically?
Yeah. I think travel, hospitality are under very deep stress. There is no question about it overall. So how will travel industry change? Let me address the issue. Will world open up or not? Answer is yes. It's a matter of time. So effectively, travel industry, to my mind, will come back. They'll have to take changes. Regulations have to change. For instance, I was reading somewhere, I forget the country, but But in one country, the entrepreneurs who are running airlines have said, we can't go from point A to point B. So can we take our smaller planes and invite consumers to come onto our smaller planes where they take a 1 hour ride and we come back? That's broadly an innovation because you're satisfying a demand with safety for people to just go out and do the needful. And I'm giving a very simple example. Travel will be under stress for a long time, air travel more. But if you look at the Indian market space, and a report came out just recently, petrol consumption has almost gone back to pre-COVID levels, and diesel consumption is about 85% right now. So consumption at the ground level is coming back. We have one of our companies called Oil Rickshaw, which is basically it enables consumers to identify an electric rickshaw so that they can move from point A to point B. It's back to pre-COVID levels. They made a change in terms of not only transporting people but also transferring goods. So I think all these will come back. There's no question. But what they need is enormous amount of cash to go through this longer period where business is not coming in. During that time, can they do something? It's digital and online is not a recipe for everything. I understand. Okay, which basically means that capital heavy infrastructure just has to wait and bide the time, reduce the cash burn so that they can come back. Manufacturing, I think, is a separate example altogether. The reason is that I think manufacturing is today coming back as a big opportunity, especially in light of what's happening in China, between China and the rest of the world. There is a phenomenal opportunity for movement of manufacturing outfits from China to India. And really, it is really large. If you see in many cases, some of the land prices around smaller towns is actually going up, it's not going down, because people are looking for more warehouses, people are looking for more manufacturing outfits, because, I mean, we have launched in the last 6 months a very major program with our companies to move supply chain and de-risk it and move it out of India. And people are doing that right now. And if they are doing that, larger companies also have to think seriously about it. So manufacturing, I think we should look at it as an opportunity. Incidentally, government is also deregulating a lot of things, like in the area of space, private guys can come in. Two-wheelers are almost back to normal. Now, four-wheelers have started chugging up a bit. Rural demand has picked up. So manufacturing, to my mind, is an opportunity today, even better than travel.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Sudhindra, if you're here, please go forward with your question.
Good morning, sir. This is Sudhindra.
Hi.
Sir, every crisis we've faced till now has shown us that we can't be ready for anything. Something or the other will come up, and we'll always find ourselves lacking, that we can't tackle that situation. But there are certain things which we can learn from our past mistakes, and sort of, can't we just make sure that such certain mistakes won't occur again? Like, for example, all the financial crises we have been undergoing, the financial turmoil we have been experiencing, or economic turmoil we have been experiencing, that can be averted to a certain extent if we focus on whatever we had done in the past, whatever had gone wrong till then. And so that's what I wanted to ask. Isn't that possible?
I'm sorry, what's your question again? In
So,
one line?
I said, we can never be ready for anything, but many of the mistakes we've committed in the past can be used to sort of avert any other mistakes in the future, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. All of us must learn every day in the morning, and that's the way you will address, what you're handling today. It's a matter of scale. Yesterday, if NPAs were happening today, how to remove NPAs, right? One of our companies is called Vienna Networks. They basically lend to small and medium enterprises. They've cumulatively lent about $4 billion worth of capital to small and medium enterprises. Incidentally, the NPAs are none, almost zero, right? So how is it that a bank gives loans and the NPAs become 6 to 7 to 10%, and a technology startup gives loans at massive scale, 4 billion, right? And the NPAs are almost zero. There must be a reason for that, right? So I think if we go into the reasons, it's intent, it's merit-based lending, it's following up on receivables, basics. I think the basics do not change of running a business, right? Overall. So absolutely, I agree with you. You learn from the past.
Animesh, you may ask your question.
Yes, sir. So, sir, my question is that as things are changing, so, sir, as an MBA graduate, what are the skill sets that we have to bring in onto the table to and as you said that this is there to stay. So, other than conventional skill set, which we are definitely learning, something which we can work on.
Okay, very good question. I think, and there's no prescription here, you have to look into yourself and say, what do I want to do? But at a macro level, take risk. I think fundamentally take risk. All of you belong to good families. So are you willing to join a startup? Because the moment you join a startup, right, you are going into an environment where there is risk every day in the morning. By the way, there's no process, right? And when there's no process, you're forced to build small processes, but the world is collapsing around you and the world is building around you, right? That doesn't happen in a large corporation, right? Large corporations function differently. There, you will go into a very nice organized setup, which is very safe. And I'm not saying it's wrong, by the way. I think it's right. That's okay. So if people want to go there and take lesser risk, that's fine. There, the risk is job. Here, the risk is shut down because that company may not survive. The question is, you can choose the right organization, the right well-funded startup. You don't have to go to a startup which has no money, right? So that de-risking can take place. But do take risks. Join startups. Join startups who are struggling to survive, okay, but have the capital to pay your compensations. Stay there for 2-3 years, learn from that, okay, and keep growing. That to me is very crucial. And I would sort of strongly recommend go join startups. They're hiring today. In fact, most large corporations may not be hiring.
All right. So we do have a lot of questions, but I think for the want of time, this is the last question we'll take. So Rakshit Gupta, if you're here, please proceed.
Good morning, sir.
Hi.
So my question is, sir, with global trade was the current norm, and more like trade barriers or barriers in general being erected, and globalization basically taking a backseat now. So, what impact would these changes have on young companies looking to scale up to a global level? And as a venture capitalist, how does this impact your investment strategy in general?
Look, we are convinced that in spite of these global trade barriers which are coming in, which are very pointed at or directed at a few products and services, right? Generally, there is still a free market in the global world, right? Which is why we see some of our younger companies, as long as you're solving a very real problem, okay? And there I'd like to make a distinction. Yesterday's building a product and selling a product, I'm sure all of you would study a lot of things on demand. Is there a demand for this, right? And then you are looking at categorization of customers, SEC, SEC, absolutely correct. Now let me flip you to how we work, and we go back and say, demand of course will be there if the product is needed. The product has to be needed. The product or the service the customer cannot do without are the ones which are going to scale. A crop productivity, the farmer, he's dependent on the farmer. If it's a demand-based product, then the company's products are not dependent. The consumer is not dependent on the product. If it's a need-based product, right, then the wallet will open up, irrespective of SEC A or B. It doesn't matter, right? Which is why it's important to build companies need-based. at a scale. And that means you can sell anywhere in the world.
Thank you so much, sir, for all your insights. Now, I would like to invite our Dean Academics, Professor Siddharth Verma, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning to everyone. Distinguished guest of the day, Mr. Sudhir Seti, founder and chairman, Chirate Ventures India Advisors, Dr. Himadidas, Director General, IMI New Delhi, my faculty colleagues, and dear students. It is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this occasion in the inaugural ceremony of the Conventors 2020. The Director General has already given you a detailed history of how Conventors originated. So as you all know, Conventors is the flagship annual event of IMI New Delhi. It consists of a series of summits organized at the Institute. And the purpose of having this event is to bring together senior industry practitioners so that, we have knowledge sharing sessions. And in this process, both faculty members as well as students learn what is happening in the industry. They keep themselves updated about the industry. And I think it's essential for an MBA institute to have such events, because we need to have an industry connect and we need to keep ourselves updated about the industry. Mere classroom teaching is not adequate, to complete an MBA education. This edition of the Conventors, of course, is very special. And it is special because this is the first time we are having it completely online. The situation is unusual. All of us know it. And when we have unusual situations, we need to have unusual ways of working. And besides, the topic of this Conventors edition, which is focusing on the VUCA world, is of course very, very appropriate. I don't think that we could have a more appropriate topic than this for this edition of Conventors. I've seen a lot of uncertainties in my life, but I don't think I have ever seen such uncertainty ever. I have never experienced such uncertainty ever. And I doubt if we will ever see such uncertainty again. This is an extraordinarily uncertain situation. So I think this topic of survival in the VUCA world is very, very appropriate. My first and foremost thanks to the chief guest, Mr. Sudhir Seti, for being here with us to grace the inaugural ceremony and also for delivering the keynote address. It was nice of him to have spare time from busy schedules that are characteristic of industry life. While many of us may be misled into thinking that because we have a lockdown and we are working from home, so people have more time for leisure, the fact is that the situation is just contrary to that. My own experience in the past 2-3 months has been that I am working more than I used to work during the pre-COVID era. I think all of us are working more while being online rather than normal times. So I need to give special thanks to Mr. Sethi for having a spare time and that too on a working day to be with us. His talk was extremely informative and educative. Personally, I would say that I knew very little about the startup world and I knew very little about venture capitalists. And I feel much more informed and educated now after listening to him. I'm sure that all of you benefited from his insights about the startup world. And his talk was inspirational when he said that each of the components of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity should be considered as opportunities. It should be considered as opportunities, not as problems. I think all of you should feel inspired listening to him. And especially in this era of uncertainty, I think his talk has been extremely appropriate and inspiring. I would also like to thank the Director General, Dr. Himadidas, for being here and for gracing this occasion. As the Director General, he is also very occupied with his work, and I'm well aware of this. So I'm sure that His presence here must be an inspiration to everyone, especially to the student community. Of course, a very big thank you to all the students for having organized this event. This is amazing, despite all the constraints of working online. I think the students have done a commendable job in organizing this function. As always, this time also it has been a student-driven event, but this time I think they need to be given bigger credit because of the constraints under which they've been working. I would also like to thank faculty colleagues who have been mentoring students for organizing this event. I would also like to thank the media for covering this event. I'm sure that their coverage would give visibility to IMI and which would be helpful in enhancing the brand image of the institute. And finally, of course, I would like to thank all the sponsors for contributing and supporting this event. I'm sure that the next 3 days are going to be very eventful. We'll have some very interesting knowledge sharing sessions, and I invite all of you to attend these sessions and get benefited by them. Thank you so much once more.
Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, sir. On that note, on behalf of IMI New Delhi, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Sudhir Seti, for taking time out of his busy schedule to share his words of wisdom with us all.
Thank you again, and all the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we conclude the inaugural session of Conventors 2020. We are sure that it was an enriching experience for all of us today. On that note, we thank you for attending the inaugural session and look forward to seeing you in the upcoming summits.
I, Simran, and my co-compare Ipsita, on behalf of the student fraternity of IMI New Delhi, would like to take this opportunity to commend all the guests, speakers, professors, students, and staff of IMI New Delhi for helping us put together the event in a seamless way.
We would also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for helping us in this endeavor. For Conventors 2020, we have RPSG as associate partner, MBA Trek as career and skill development partner, IOCL as co-sponsor, DU Beat, an independent student newspaper as digital media partner, Health and Happiness Private Limited as e-commerce partner, Cengage as education partner, The Vanka as fashion partner, Brewhouse as iced tea partner, Multimind Creations as innovation partner, the Punjab National Bank as loan partner, DU Express as media partner, Human Capital as media partner, Mint or Hindustan Times as news subscription partner, Radio City as radio partner, College Dunia as social media partner, Unity as student community partner, Innovators Bay Technologies Private Limited as technology partner, Campus Times Pune as youth partner, FinLadder, Tribe Concept, Umbrella Genix, Dr. Vadyas, Kambya Sports, a sportswear, Superior Wired Co., Unschool, Edupeer, Your Space, Sage Publishing, SG. With this, we finally come to the end of the inaugural session. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful and enlightening day. Thank you.